Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, they are calling for some more severe weather tomorrow, Wednesday. So if you live kind of in the Midwest and the South, it looks like this one is going to be not over in the Oklahoma, Kansas. It's going to give them a break. This one looks like it's going to be primarily Missouri, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, Kentucky, that area. So definitely be paying attention to that. They're calling for it to be pretty severe, high winds, potential for tornadoes. And we've had a lot of tornadoes this year. Such a strange phenomenon that it's just happening like that. I mean, it certainly couldn't have anything to do with the fact that the radar keeps, nationwide keeps failing and going down, or there's all these weird little blips on the radar that are just can't really be explained. I mean, it has nothing to do with that, folks. Just don't believe any of that stuff. Just trust the government. Trust these guys when they say it's all because you caused global warming. That's the reason for it. So stop eating meat, give up your property, don't drive a car, don't live in a house, move to a little 15-minute city, and it will take care of everything. It's amazing how it works like that. Anyways, I just thought I'd mention that to kind of give you a heads up, because storms like this can do massive damage, and you need to be prepared for that. A lot of people often ask, and I mean, I've asked myself this question: what is the collapse going to be like? Well, what's it going to look like? And while none of us can know the true answer to that, we can look throughout history. We can see how human behavior is. We can watch other societies that's collapsed. We can see what's going on in the world today, how people behave now, and extrapolate very easily of what these people that are already insane, violent, all these things, what they're going to do, how they're going to behave when their safety net, when their creature comforts are pulled out from underneath them. The thing is what most people, I don't think they even think about it this way. We don't have to speculate what a collapse is going to be like, because we're actually living in one right now. We're living in a collapse right now. It's a different type of collapse. It's kind of a hybrid type of thing. We expect, because of movies and pop culture and things like that a collapse is going to be, one day things are great and the next day the power goes off and it's pandemonium. And while that can happen, and that still could happen to us, the odds, I think, in my opinion, the odds are still in the favor of this collapse continuing on in the way that we are going, kind of that slow death, just incremental destruction. And honestly, I think that may be one of the worst things. That may be the worst case scenario for us, because what that also means is that all the systems in place, the government, all of that is going to be there. It's going to be there the whole time. And as society fails more and more, those systems of government are going to become more and more powerful. So instead of ending up in a scenario where it's just anarchy and it's every man for himself and there's cannibals running around and there's marauders and old beat up pickup trucks just taking what they want, instead, I think the more likely scenario is that we end up in a situation where government is just more and more powerful, to the point that it's like a 1984 scenario or a Brave New World scenario, where they have technology and they have a large amount of brainwashed people that are, going to do exactly what they're told to do and take it out on you. I think that's one of the reasons why we're allowing 10 to 15,000 illegals across the border every day. They're already in certain cities and states allowing them to become police officers. There's been talk for quite a while, and it is happening. of open the doorway for them to join the military and eventually become citizens, and basically replace all the people that have quit the military or the ones that won't join the military because of the new woke military. And then what do you have? You have people that are enforcing the rulers' dictates that have no emotional tie to America. They have no respect for our freedoms, and they don't view you and I as brothers and sisters, as fellow Americans. They view us as just the enemy. And so I think in that scenario, it actually makes it a little bit more difficult to prepare. You know, as hard as it would be, and I'm not romanticizing this at all. I get it. I understand how bad it would be if you were completely cut off from the rest of the world. But honestly, I think we would have a better chance of surviving if that were the case, if there was just nothing, if everything was just cut off. There was no utilities, there was no supply chain, there was no government, no enforcement, no anything, to where you're completely on your own. Folks like myself and most of you would probably do pretty well. But that's not what we're going to be facing most likely. Most likely we will be facing just a little bit more at a time, chipping away at our freedoms, chipping away at who we are. I mean, look at what's going on in China. China is a good example. And I think China is a good example because Klaus Schwab with the World Economic Forum has openly said that China, that how China does things is the nearly perfect blueprint for other countries to follow. So what China is doing, what they're doing, their surveillance, their control, their everything, the big, boot of government, that's most likely what we're going to see everywhere else. And we're starting to see that little by little by little. Definitely things picked up speed after COVID, but we have watched our freedoms being chipped away a little bit at a time. The current administration, the current government has made it clear that they want to take things away from you. They want to tax you. They want to keep you in poverty. They want to keep you ill, and they want to take away your property. This is going to be a lot harder for us to deal with, because you can't say, well, I'll just rebel against this and fight my way out of it, because there's no law, there's no government. It's just every man for himself. It's whoever has the biggest gun and the most ammo, right? Wrong. That's not how it's going to work, because you can make it your last stand, but when there's a bunch of them coming around your home and coming through your door, I guarantee you it will be your last stand. And there's not really a win in that situation. So preparing for this just incremental destruction is tough. It's tough to do. It's tough to figure out how we can avoid things. When they switch over to the digital currency and they say, this is the only way. No one's accepting paper currency anymore. No one's accepting that. How are you going to pay bills? How are you going to, pay your property taxes, your real estate taxes? If you can't do that, I mean, you're not going to have a place to live. And you can say, well, I'll use things like Bitcoin, or I'll use things like gold and silver to buy with or to barter with. And yes, you'll be able to do that on certain level of scale. But big companies, big businesses, they're not going to take that. Gas stations aren't going to take that. The local tax collector's not going to take that. And so it puts us in a predicament. They know what they're doing. These people are smart. They know what they're doing. And they are setting the system up that puts us in a corner that we either comply, become total complete slaves, or perish. I believe that's the whole point of what they're doing. And that's a lot harder for us to prepare against. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just a lot harder. It's why I've suggested for a long time for you to become as independent, self-sufficient as possible. Find ways to not need the system. And the more and more you're able to do without it now, the easier it's going to be when you're forced to do without it. When you're forced to not go to a doctor or hospital because you don't have the proper paperwork or whatever it is. When you're forced to not be able to have electricity because you don't have the proper, the proper currency, the proper approval, the proper paperwork. All of these things could very much become a reality. And as much as we want to roll our eyes and laugh at those things and say, oh, that's just way too extreme. Number one, that scenario that I've painted, at least in some form or fashion, I believe fits a lot better with biblical end-time prophecy than the idea that everything's going to collapse and it's just going to be this barren wasteland and it's every man for himself and the most powerful person is the one that's going to survive. I think big government taking completely over is the more likely scenario, and it's more biblical. I also think it's the most likely scenario because it's the things that they're doing. They're already doing these things, and they've told us that they're doing these things. And so, we have to prepare for that. As much as we don't want to prepare of living in exile, maybe, hiding out, trying to figure out a way to, keep out of their view. And with all the technology that's being developed, that's going to be harder and harder. With, satellite technology and drone technology and robotic and AI and all of this stuff, it's becoming harder and harder to do. But I think that's the world that we're in and that we're headed into, is not necessarily a world that's collapsed, at least not how we think it would collapse. A monetary collapse, the grid goes down, it turns into this barren wasteland. It's, there's violence around every corner, and you have to take care of yourself, and because no one else is there, and you're just on your own. I think that's a very unlikely scenario at this point. I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me, but I think the more likely scenario is that it's just more and more government. And it's happening incrementally because, well, they do that on purpose because it's easier to get away with it. If we just woke up one day to some kind of, Orwellian 1984 world, well, people would be rioting in the streets. But we pass a law here and there. We change a regulation. We change a policy. We do things a little different, little by little. We call it the new normal. We say it's a great reset. It's going to make things better, and people accept it. Whether it's good for them or not, they accept it because it's incremental, and it doesn't look dangerous. It looks like it's the way we've always done things, right? We've always done it this way. We've always done stuff like this. So this isn't any different. It's just progress. And it's not exactly what it is. Yeah, it's progress. It's progressing right towards totalitarianism. It's progressing right towards Marxism, and it's progressing right towards the beast system. And most people they don't even notice it anymore. If you look at things like biometrics and using things like your palm print, your hand print, a microchip, or anything like that to purchase food, if you went back 20, 30 years ago, the vast majority of the population would think you were crazy and would absolutely refuse it. And yet nowadays, if you look at the polling and stuff that's been done, most of the people are for that kind of stuff. They think it's a great convenient. They don't have to carry their wallet anymore. They just have to scan their palm of their hand or whatever it is. And the digital currency seems pretty cool too. They don't have to carry that nasty money in their pocket. They can, they're already using digital for the most part when they're using their debit cards, so it's already convenient, and it's just easier to do things. And it'll be easier for the government to send me my universal basic income check every month. So why not? You see, this has all happened because of incrementally destroying us. And people accept it. That's in my opinion, where we need to be preparing ourselves for. Yeah, it's possible that there's going to be some complete destruction of everything. and we're just reset back to zero, like some kind of Stone Age society. But I think the likely scenario is that government, Big Brother, the system just keeps getting bigger and bigger and taking more and more from us. And it's happening right now. This isn't something that might happen in the future. It's something that's happening as I speak. And we need to get ready for that. Getting your houses in order, becoming self-sufficient, breaking away from the system. Don't be dependent. If you find in your life there are things that you're dependent upon that you can't control, then you need to figure out a different way to have those things or just do without. It's time to prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.